and the networking aspect, right? Like I go to these as well, and you have somebody's going to approach you, and sometimes they know you, and they're gonna kind of ask. They might even be aware of something that um, is a follow on to a conversation you had previously, and it's like, hey, well, Carla, how's it going with this or that? And then there's other people who, if it's only SEO, that doesn't also take into account all the other things that you do. So, I mean, you've done a lot in your 22 years of Design by Carla, but I mean, how do you, I guess, effectively summarize kind of all of your offerings when you approach someone that's just not familiar with all of who you are?
I think that's one of the biggest questions that a lot of people ask me is, over the years, is like, what do you do? Because a lot of times people didn't even know the name of my company. They just knew my name. They were like, Carla. I've been called a lot of different names, positive names, not, but the computer lady or the SEO guru. I mean, there's so much history in where I started to where I'm at today. So, there's just so much that has changed, and especially in this industry.
Mm-hmm.
But as far as like what I'll offer, what I specialize in, I think is what really is important. And that's the strategy to move businesses online and getting them to understand the importance and what they should be investing back into. And that's, creating that good quality SEO, targeting those audience to find their needs and products that they need, they're offering on their website or their business, because that is the part that really generates those leads and inquiries, to close those deals. I mean, our job is in marketing to create those leads. And I think those things that are additional to that, which I call it the unicorn dust, is adding that consistency with social media management and writing those additional content pieces that's focus oriented around those, SEO strategies with, creating some topic clusters of information that is more focused in on your business. And I think that we've hold the weight of social media over the years that it's really exciting to see the circle of change happening, where you're seeing more and more people investing more into their business with their website. And it's not just a holding spot on a business card. So I like that aspect, that evolution is starting to come back, because that's been the focal point for me for 22 years. That's why some of my businesses have started out very small, and now they're big. They're companies. They start out small. So what? You can grow if you put the time and effort in, because it is a long time investment. It's not a one-time deal. It's not, sitting down for 5 minutes and then all of a sudden snapping your fingers and there's a solution.
Yeah.
So there's so much more into web design work. It's the embodiment of just creating that information. You're the portal. You're to provide that solution to their problem. And if you're not conveying that, then you've lost your audience.
So do you feel then like the core aspect of no matter what you do is a strong website?
Yes.
And that's your anchor point, if you will. And then everything is an appendage off of that.
Well, the anchor point is just getting started to understand the aspect of that design, right?
Okay.
So a pretty website is, when you start thinking about when you designed websites, we used to code them from start from beginning to end, right? And so nowadays it's like, when can I go purchase a theme? And those are perfectly fine, but in the aspect of that, there's places that things belong in, and the content that you're trying to convey is got to be so simple, very easy, and not confusing to your audience. And so what is important is to get that audience to stay on that website, to find what they're looking for, whether it's just, looking for a product or service that you're offering, or just the expertise of what you're trying to show off. It's not necessarily the bragging aspect, but just what is it that you offer, and how much do you know, right? Because, we can all super, aspect, but the SEO, content strategy, and a website is the three main components when you're starting your business out. Yeah. And it is a continuation. It's not just okay, it's done, let's walk away from it. It is a huge building block, and it's continuously to be that way.
So when I was thinking, we were talking a little bit before we hit record about my logo and just kind of the beginnings and how did I get it created, and what I'm definitely from, we're from the old school a little bit, right?
Yeah.
We're about the same age. And when I would think of anybody starting a business that's kind of in our generation, it kind of starts with the website. Websites have been around the whole time of my professional life and different endeavors I've tried to do before. But how often are people starting, they just have Instagram, they just have Facebook or Pinterest or something like that, and it's eye-opening or revolutionary in a way for them, that you explain to them, well, you kind of need a website as well. Is that something that's deemed old-fashioned in to some degree, or maybe not a primary objective when some entrepreneurs start and they think about marketing?
Well, I'm not going to say that don't do social media. I think there are businesses that are very, very successful in their social media focus. The problem is sometimes people spread themselves way too thin when it comes to social media. They add everything, including the kitchen sink, when you should be more focusing on what's working for your types of businesses. Not every business belongs on every single platform. And so, some things do work. And back in the day, social media did work. I mean, Facebook organically did very good. We were looking at a 10% return. Now we're not even looking at that now. What is really working right now on social media is LinkedIn. So we're seeing a huge change in the business to business entities of going from Facebook to LinkedIn to kind of grasp that natural networking, because it's really changing that market. Now Instagram, I think, is just a great tool, but there are some very successful people that are using it. So I can't say that don't start there. Yeah. I can say that you should be. It's a part. It's just a major component. Websites are part of your business, and it's part of you getting out there, because if you don't have a website, how do you build your email subscribers?
Yeah.
They've got to come to you and say they can trust you. Do you add value to what you market? And so a website is the grounding source. It is your salesperson. It's the gateway of getting people out there.
Yeah, and I guess to kind of complete my thought is there's also that aspect of you don't want someone to get lost. And like, if I have if a viewer comes across the podcast, same thing for you with your podcast, Coffee and Hustle.
Right.
I'll show your webpage in here in a second. I don't want someone to discover me maybe just through Instagram and not know, oh, he has a website as well. Like, somehow you have to keep putting in the breadcrumbs that lead the trail back to the website, and then everything needs to connect together. So if I'm doing something on YouTube, which is very different for me, I have to, like, YouTube is separate in the way there's the upload process and how you do your descriptions and all that kind of stuff. But then there's everything else, Spotify, Google, and that's a different upload process and a different RSS feed. And then all those things, how do they know that Our Town Podcast has a website, right? And it's like, you just never want anyone stranded on an island, I guess is kind of the point I'm making, which then ultimately is really important. That, okay, well, then what happens when they land on the website? Then what, right? And I know I have some improvement there, but do you kind of have those conversations with people where you need to make sure that it all ties together and you don't strand people?
Yes, I think that's the first thing I look at. Mm-hmm. And when I'm meeting with a client or talking to a client, it's like, okay, there's some work that needs to be done, and organizing your thought process and strategies that, it's not so much data related, in aspects is if you don't have a website that's working for you, then you're going to ask, why is my traffic not coming to my website? Why is things not working? Why am I not being found? You have to understand that there's some technical aspects to it. There's a lot of SEO factors that go into play. So you can't just go, when you were looking at the website aspect, it's got to go hand in hand. And, if one thing doesn't work, then you can go, okay, well, maybe there's something on my website that's not conveying correctly. Or maybe there's some pieces in that website that people are actually looking for that that's called niche industry, where people might want more of. And if you really tailor to that, then you're tailoring to that audience and you're tailoring to that need. You might find out that that primary aspect of your business may not be as successful as your secondary part of your business. And I've had businesses over the years that their secondary businesses actually outperform their primary aspects. So it just depends. I've got more of a nerdy technical idea of things. So I don't look at it as being just pretty. It's like, how would the website perform with Google, right? Because it owns 92% of our global search market, right? So you have to understand that there's a balance between the two. If Google can't find it, you can't get it in front of people, and if people are not reacting to it, then you're kind of losing a battle. So as far as social media goes, all of it plays a part. It's a big puzzle, and it can be overwhelming. But it's like, you got to start in an organized structure where when somebody comes to you, these are the things that you should have a conversation about. And it's got to be honest, So even if you want to start with social media, I'm going to give you 6 months, and then we're going to start working on these other pieces, and I'm going to start throwing these other numbers out there, and I'm going to start talking about other things. So you kind of nurture that client to get them to understand, because with social media, they see immediate results. They see that people like it, comment, whatever, and then okay, I can see it. But with a website, the data can be not as interesting because they're numbers, and they don't understand bounce rates. They don't understand CTR. They don't understand. So there's so many other avenues. And then they start talking about putting out ads. Well, if your website doesn't convey the right information, then why do you think an ad's going to perform?
Yeah.